Welcome back to Grace, Grit, and Grounds. Today we're back at the lathe turning another cedar bowl. I know, another cedar bowl. At this point, some of you are probably wondering if I own any other species of wood. Truth is, a good friend of mine, like I mentioned in other videos, gave me several cedar logs, and every time I cut into one of them, I find myself amazed all over again. I truly do love the smell. I love the grain. And honestly, I love the surprise. Because cedar never looks impressive on the outside. You can see that right here on the block. It's weathered, it's rough. Most of the time it looks rather ordinary. But the moment the gouge begins to cut, something happens. The color just explodes out of it. Beauty that was there the whole time suddenly emerges. It was almost as like it was just hidden beneath the surface, a thin layer of, well, not so pretty. I wasn't introduced to cedar this way. When I first started turning bowls, I was living in Alaska. My wood choices were limited. I had spruce and a few other of the softwoods that I could find whenever I would go my walkabouts. Occasionally, something interesting would show up, but if I wanted something truly exotic, something unique, I usually had to buy the blanks online from one of the vendors, or make a 3-hour drive to Anchorage and hope that the wood store had something worth bringing home. And sometimes I'd find offcuts. Sometimes I'd get some Paduke or Purple Heart, maybe some mahogany, pieces that usually other people didn't want. So they were always a little twisted or a little off, but I can usually make something out of them. But every once in a while, I'd stumble across something really amazing. Like one time when I came across some olive wood. I'll tell you, olive wood at that moment in my time, my history, it became one of my absolute favorites. I loved the aromatic nature of olive when it's turned, and the grain is just, amazing. It is so beautiful. And much like cedar, it's very soft and easy to work with. And while you're doing it, the grain just pops and dances. And sometimes I would find myself wondering if the olive wood I was turning was still alive. It just felt that amazing. Years later, when I got here to Kentucky and I started turning cedar, I found myself experiencing that same sense of wonder. Now, I should probably tell you guys something. I'm colorblind. Not completely. I mean, when you say colorblind, the first thing you think of is, do you see what color do you see, or do you see any color at all? And the reality is I still see color. I just don't see it the way most people do. Many shades blend together. Some colors lose their distinction as far as I know. Some details disappear. It's just things that I've learned to live with. I wouldn't know any different if it wasn't pointed out to me. Most of the time, I don't even think about it. But there are certain colors that seem to cut through that fog. Certain reds and pinks, and some of the warm tones that you get in the color, spectrum. And cedar has those colors. The first time I ever cut into a cedar log, I watched those reds emerge beneath the bark, and I was honestly stunned and a little hooked, if I could be so candid. Maybe that's part of why I love it so much. It reminds me that beauty exists even when we don't fully perceive it. Sometimes beauty is present long before our eyes are capable of seeing it. And if I'm being honest, I think people are a lot like that as well. I think God sees beauty and possibility where sometimes the rest of us just see withered bark and maybe firewood. I felt that way for a number of years. And that's one of the reasons why I love Jesus so much, is that he's able to see through, my imperfections, my frustrations. You notice the blank that I'm turning. You can see the bits of rot and problems just in turning it. And as I'm creating this tenon, I can honestly say that I already knew I was going to have some problems with this blank, but I wanted to make something beautiful. And you could tell the rich beauty of the reds that are popping out of that cedar, even amidst the problems that are there. It's clear this bowl is going to become beautiful at some point. But when I sat down to, get into the shop that day, this wasn't really part of a grand plan. I just, wanted to spend the day doing something I enjoy. I had spent a few hours mowing the front yard, and the week had been pretty busy, and I just needed some downtime. My grandkids are in town and, they were taken care of, and I didn't need to do anything directly with them. And I just found myself wanting something simple. I didn't really want to be productive or efficient, just simple. And I wanted to make something beautiful. To be honest with you, my last project was walnut and I enjoyed it, but I keep feeling a call back to the cedar to turn something that just has that flame-like appearance as I put the gouge to the wood. I wanted that beauty. I think sometimes seeking that kind of beauty is enough. I think maybe we might have forgotten that. As a people, we've become so focused on productivity that, we've forgotten a lot of things. And simple joy in the moment. We've learned how to measure output, but we've forgotten how to measure wonder. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon talks about finding satisfaction in our work is a gift from God, not a reward, a gift. The ability to enjoy what our hands create is part of God's kindness towards us. Now, you see, I've flipped the blank around and I've started to, I've started to turn the center of it. You can clearly see there's some spots on the edge that's going to give me problems. But if you can't see the beauty in that grain just now, forget about when it's done, then you're blind. That's all I can say. There's some issues. Obviously, there's some branch holes. There's some what I call punky spots and definitely challenges. As I use my rounded gouge to sort of, carve out the center. I could have used my Forstner bits, but this particular blank is only about 2 inches thick, and I didn't want to cut too deeply too quickly. And honestly, I just love the way that it smells, and it cuts so effortlessly with my carbide gouge that I just wanted to do it all by hand. I didn't want to give the drill the satisfaction of doing what I can do myself. So I just started cutting into it, And I think every bowl eventually becomes a conversation. It's a conversation between me and the piece of wood. The wood has ideas. I have ideas. And I think the majority of the time that I'm carving is really like us spending time negotiating what the final product's going to be, And that's just the nature of it. I love turning bowls, but I genuinely have fallen in love with turning cedar. I can't deny that there are problems with this bowl. And you can see clearly as I spin it around that there are some imperfections. As I get deeper into this bowl, I find that there's even more problems inside. Things that I didn't notice on the outside. Pieces of punkiness and rot that's sort of lying underneath the surface is the things that I'm starting to find. You can't really see it as well on the video, but it's already starting to chatter a little bit on me and it's causing some problems. And it's not because the sidewalls are flexing or anything like that. It's just that, it's resisting what I want it to be. But that's kind of how these things are. When we look at a bowl and we compare it to a life, it's in many ways it's very similar. Not every flaw in our personality, in our life, in our character needs to be completely removed. Some imperfections, some flaws are part of the story. And I actually feel like in this bowl in particular that the holes that you're going to see in the sides of this bowl are going to give it even greater character when it's all said and done. And to me, it just thrills me when I think about that. Now, that being said, I'm moving through this bowl pretty quickly because it honestly is just a dream to turn. I keep checking the depth and make sure the sidewall is not so bad, but it's clearly turning easily. But you can see the problems. You can see it in the bottom of the bowl where my thumb's touching. You can see it as in the top part when you look at those holes that are manifesting. As I worked my way towards the sanding, I knew that things they were going in the right direction, but there were problems. So far, though, all in all, it's been a pretty good turn. I've really enjoyed the process. What I wanted to do in this shape is I wanted to give it a little bit of a C shape, like the letter C, where I sort of go deeper to the inner sidewall and have a bit of a lip overhanging the bowl itself. And that was kind of my thought process when I was going through this. I thought this would make a really lovely little bowl. It's one of my more favorite shapes to turn. And cedar is great for that because I can get deeper into the sidewall and leave a little bit of an edge without having a whole lot of problems. But I have been conscious of the imperfections, the spots. I was concerned that maybe there was gonna be some blowout on me, and I didn't want that to happen. So, simply going to the side, on the outside, trimming it down, trying to make the right shape that I'm looking for was really what I'm trying to do here. And I'm getting closer to that point where I know for a fact that I'm not gonna be able to do a whole lot, more. You can see that I pulled a screwdriver out and, sort of cleaned up the hole that goes all the way through the sidewall. That particular hole, I think, is it's gonna come back to haunt me here soon. But that being said, as I worked my way through the sanding process, I really felt like things were looking good. Now, the shape was the way I wanted it. The grain really was beautiful. And I could see the finish line. It was in sight. There was no doubt about it. This was going to be one of my more favorite builds that I've done in recent time. And if you've been following this channel, you know that I've had some struggles with cedar. And one of the things that I thought that would help me was making thinner, smaller bowls so I wasn't looking at the big giant vases. And by going smaller, I felt I can control more of the variables. At least that was my thought. And as I was working my way through the sanding paper, I started off with 40 grit and then I went to 80 grit. And I think at this point now I'm starting to get into that 80 grit. And as I was sanding the interior, trying to remove a stubborn section of what I like to call punkiness, that's where things went a little sideways. It wasn't a dramatic moment. It was just a matter-of-fact moment. You can see right there is what happened. My fingers twisted. The sandpaper caught. The bowl twisted it. It was spinning at 1900 RPMs. And I broke my middle finger. As you can see here, I instantly knew something wasn't right. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of it. It wasn't on the project plan list. I didn't plan on breaking my finger. I didn't plan on having problems. I just I just wanted to finish the bowl. But here's the strange thing. Even with a broken finger, and at the time I didn't know it was broken. I knew it hurt. I knew I couldn't put any pressure on it. I could feel it starting to swell. But I wanted to finish the bowl because I knew it was going to be beautiful. I probably should have stopped. It definitely would have been smarter. But instead, I pressed on. I finished it. I wanted this bowl to be beautiful. I didn't want it to go into the shop. I didn't want it to wait. I wanted to take every moment I could, while I still could, doing this. And I've hurt myself in the past, working on these wood projects. I've jabbed myself. I've burnt myself. I've cut myself. I've had pieces fly off and smack me in the face. I had a black eye for a few weeks. One time when a larger piece of cedar flew off and hit me in the face, I wasn't wearing my proper protective gear because I didn't think I needed it. Well, that was foolish on my part. But as I sat there looking at the bowl and my fingers throbbing, I kind of found myself thinking about something. And I've talked about this a while ago, but there's always a cost to making something beautiful. Artists know this, parents know it, pastors, teachers, craftsmen of all type. We all know what it's like to create something beautiful. Because to do that, we have to invest ourselves in it. Beautiful things rarely emerge without sacrifice. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it's energy, sometimes it's disappointment, sometimes it's pain. Creation always costs the creator something. Maybe that's one reason creation tells us something about God. When God chose to redeem the world, he didn't do it from a distance. He entered it. The Creator stepped into the creation. Redemption came at a tremendous cost. The cross is ever present before us as a visible reminder of that love and the fact that that love was not merely expressed through words and platitudes. Love gives. Love sacrifices. Love bears the scars. I know why Christ kept his scars. He didn't have to. He chose to. He wanted them as a visible reminder for himself and for us of the cost that our redemption required. The risen Christ still carries his scars. And you know, the funny thing is, he doesn't carry them because he lost. He carried them because he loved. I'll probably make another cedar bowl, and I'll be honest, there's a very good chance that I'll take a video of it. But this bowl will always remind me of something. That beauty is worth slowing down for. That joy in the simple act of making something is not wasted time. Imperfections don't automatically ruin a story. And sometimes the things we create leave their mark on us long after we've finished creating them. This bowl certainly did. Quite literally. In fact, according to Google and my doctor, this mark is going to last 6 to 8 weeks as my finger heals. Either way, it was worth it. As you can see, the grain just popping after I put the oil on the top and the inside. This bowl truly has become one of my most beautiful pieces. I want to thank you for spending some time in the shop with me today. And as we close out this episode, I just want to encourage you. Until next time, keep creating, keep learning, keep remembering that grace builds what grit sustains. I would also encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel. If something I've said resonates with you, or if you know somebody that needs to hear what I've said, drop them a link, send them a message. If you just want to share your own experiences with cedar or maybe a broken finger or two, feel free to drop a message in the comments. Either way, I'm grateful that you chose to spend some time with me in the shop today. Until next time.